Welcome to The Unspoken. I'm Margaret Chen. For over 30 years, I worked in elder care advocacy, and I also walked this path with my own mother. Today, we're talking about the crisis no one wants to discuss: how we care for our aging loved ones. We have a system that feels less like a safety net and more like a trapdoor. It feels designed to bankrupt middle-class families before offering help. Families are just blindsided by costs of over $100,000 a year.
Yes.
And while that's happening, Medicaid requires them to spend down to almost nothing. The planning, it needs to start years in advance.
Right.
But the conversation often only begins during a crisis when it's already far too late.
And I'm Bob Williams. I spent my career as a financial planner specializing in this exact issue. And Margaret, that trapdoor metaphor is spot on. I'm living it right now with my 89-year-old father. Let me just give you the numbers. His income covers maybe a quarter of the $8,000 monthly cost for memory care. He has too much in savings to qualify for Medicaid.
Right.
But not nearly enough to pay for care for more than a few months. It's the classic middle-class bind.
Right.
I know all the rules. The 5-year look back, the asset protection trusts.
Of course.
But that knowledge doesn't change the impossible math. You're forced to spend a lifetime of savings in under a year. How do we help families overcome the psychological barrier of planning for what feels like defeat?
Bob, your story is the heart of this crisis. I mean, an expert in the field is still facing the same impossible choices.
Yeah.
It just proves how broken the system is. When it was my own mother, I second-guessed every single decision.
I can imagine.
Because it wasn't just policy anymore, it was her dignity, her safety. You're right, families resist planning because it feels like planning to fail. We need to reframe it. It's not about preparing for disaster. It's about protecting your choices. What strategies did you find worked to get families to have these conversations before the emergency call came?
Well, the most effective tool was what I called scenario planning. I'd show them the numbers for our city, not some national averages. I'd say, let me show you what happens to your choices if we don't plan. Waiting until the crisis means you might have 2 nursing homes to choose from. Planning ahead means you have 18 months of private pay to find the right place.
A huge difference.
It shifts the whole goal from avoiding failure to preserving dignity. But experiencing this myself has been humbling. I'm discovering the importance of informal networks.
Oh, yes.
These caregiver support groups where people share real-world intelligence. Which aides are reliable? Which doctors really get it? So from your policy side, Margaret, what would a system that doesn't force families into poverty first even look like?
That's the crucial question. There are models out there. Germany has a mandatory long-term care insurance program that protects families from this cliff. Here, states like Connecticut have partnership programs, but as you know, they're often insufficient. The real frustration is we treat this as 50 different state problems,
Right.
not a single national crisis. The most promising path forward is to reframe this as an economic issue.
Exactly.
Not a poverty program. It impacts teachers, firefighters, small business owners, the people legislators actually listen to. Incrementally expanding Medicare to cover home care, for instance, could be a game changer. From your experience, Bob, what one change would have made the biggest difference for your clients?
Oh, without a doubt, Medicare home care expansion. Nearly every family I worked with wanted to keep their loved one at home.
Yes.
But Medicare's current rules are just so restrictive, they don't cover what families actually need. Help with bathing, meals, safety supervision. I had a client, a retired teacher, whose mother needed supervision. Private care cost over $240,000 a year.
Wow.
They spent their life savings in 11 months before she ended up in a facility that Medicaid then paid for at a cost of $100,000 a year. The math is insane. We spent more to get a worse outcome. If Medicare had covered just 20 hours of home care a week,
Just 20 hours?
that family could have kept her home for years, not months, and saved the system money.
Those numbers, they should make every policymaker furious. The biggest barrier isn't the cost. It's what I call institutional capture. Our entire system is built to feed expensive facilities, and they have powerful lobbies. They fight home care by calling it unsafe,
Of course.
while their own inspection reports tell a very different story. But we can build a stronger coalition. Employers are losing productive workers to this crisis. Tech companies developing home health tools need this market. We have to connect the dots and frame this as what it is, an economic issue that's holding our country back.
That makes perfect sense. And you see the absurdity of the current system in the small details. I had a client whose father became more eligible for home care after he had a fall.
Oh, no.
We were in a position of celebrating his loss of independence because it finally unlocked the help he needed all along. That's the backwards incentive structure we have to dismantle.
Exactly. It's a system that forces impossible choices and celebrates the wrong outcomes. But by having these conversations, by connecting the personal stories to the policy failures, we can start to build the political will for a system that values dignity over dollars. Now, here's a question we'd like you to think about. This is a crisis that thrives in silence. If you were to start a conversation with your own family about preparing for the future, what is the one question you would ask to break that silence?